Imagine building and racing a 10-second drag car, then becoming a gopher for a race team, which leads to becoming the general manager of one of the nation's top arrive and drive programs. Let's throw the green flag on this episode. Well, I'm excited to have John Harkenrider on the Late to Grid podcast. John, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I do like to tell the listeners how I meet guests. And you and I met on one of my favorite social media platforms, LinkedIn. You made a comment about a post I made, and you said, hey, love the podcast, love to be on. You and I had a great conversation, and here we are. So tell me, how do you use LinkedIn as it relates to your business? And let me tell the listeners, Havoc Motorsports. We're going to get into that as the episode goes on. But John, how do you in the motorsports world use LinkedIn?
You know, it's wild. I never really used it until about a year ago. I got on there and I realized how many people were on there from the race community. From team owners to mechanics to drivers to sponsors, everyone you need to know in the racing world has some form of connection to LinkedIn, and it's been great. The contacts I've made have been far more than I've been able to do just, meet and greets and trade shows and stuff like that. So it's been really helpful.
That's awesome. We talk about networking on this podcast quite a bit because racing is such a tight-knit community. It's such an open community. So whether you network in person, you network online, it is super important as you want to advance through motorsports. Is there a connection you made through networking that helped maybe land a new arrive and drive customer or helped you solve a problem or got you to the next level?
Yeah, we actually, for LinkedIn, got in touch with Ralph Hansen from Pegasus Marketing Group, and we hooked up with him and got a lot of leads on some possible title sponsors for the 26 season that we're nearing locking in, and we got 2 drivers that we're interviewing this week. So definitely has been a help in that aspect. And then just being able to communicate with drivers and teams on the European side that normally we really wouldn't have that contact with. One of the drivers is actually from Abu Dhabi. So, regular stuff, I would have never met this driver or had the opportunity. So it's been super helpful.
Right. That's great. I want to tell listeners too that after you and I got connected, I was doing a little research on you just to, who is John? What's this Havoc Motorsport about? And I came across a picture of your shop. And it got me fired up that morning because after I saw that, I was headed to the gym to work out, and it was work harder, or nobody cares, work harder. Why is that? Why is that hanging in your shop?
That's just one of those things that kind of my father-in-law inspired. It was, he was old school, and it didn't matter what it took or how long it took. You had a job and it needed to get done. So, we've kind of just adopted that, nobody cares, work harder, just get the job done. You know what you need to do.
Right. Don't tell me about it. Just get it done.
Yep.
Don't care what's getting in the way. Get it done. That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. You've always been interested in cars, and a bunch of friends dragged you to a drag strip, and that's when you fell in love with racing. Tell us about that story.
Yeah. So it was, I was 14 and it was a Friday night, and bunch of my buddies and their older brothers were going to the drag strip, and they're like, you coming with? And I'm like, I don't know, like, you're coming with. So we all piled in the car and we drove out to the drag strip. One of the older brothers had a car he was running, and 4.5, 5 hours later of just watching cars rip down the track, I was hooked. I got a job at the local speed shop the next summer, and from there I started building a Trans Am, and I had a 10-second street car that I raced at the track, and then it was time to kind of grow up, and I sold it, and still regret selling that to this day. I should have kept it and just made it an all out drag strip car. But That's where I got hooked into the world of racing was the drag strip and all of that stuff.
What drag strip?
US 41 out in Morocco, Indiana.
All right. And I'm going to guess it was a first gen Firebird if it was a drag car.
No, it was a 94. It was the first year of the
Oh,
LT1,
okay.
and that LT1 lasted about 6 months in that car, and we ripped it out. And I knew Pat Musey through his kids, and he ended up having a motor that a customer decided they didn't want, and I was able to pay the remaining balance on it and pick up a Pat Musey nitrous motor, and that was kind of all she wrote. That's
Oh
when the money
man.
started really getting serious at 18 years old. But
Oh yeah. So 10-second, man, that's pretty quick. You ever get the urge to do it again?
all the time,
Yeah. Do you ever just
all
take
the
the daily
time.
driver down there?
No, I haven't. I moved up to a pickup, so it wouldn't get me too far down the quarter mile. But there's there's times I've been find myself shopping, looking at the Trans Ams and the Camaros out there, just like, oh, that'd be fun to do again.
Yeah, I've never been down the drag strip. Went to, in high school, we'd always go out to the local drag strip on Wednesdays and watch some grudge matches, and it was always a good time. But just, I don't know, I never really got behind the wheel. Maybe it's something I'll have to try. So other than drag racing, did you ever do anything else behind the wheel? Any autocross track days before you started working with Havoc?
No, it was just the drag strip, and working with Havoc, I kind of fell into it, was thrown into it. I was a fireman for 15 years, and then I blew my knee out. Um, Doctor wouldn't clear me to go back, so had to find a new career at 29 years old, which was not in the cards, wasn't planned, but it just kind of happened. And I was lucky enough, my father-in-law, offered me the spot, and I came in and I said, I know nothing about road racing. I'm from the world of as much power as you can put down and keep the tires from spinning and go straight. So it was a learning curve, and hopefully I picked up some of the stuff that he had tried to teach me over time. But
Yeah.
def-
And when you first came into Havoc, you were working in the pits, you were refueling cars, is that right?
yeah, I was basically a gopher.
Mhm.
I started just changing tires, going to get fueling cars, cleaning cars, slowly just trying to make my way up and finally get to start turning wrenches on cars. And but yeah, started from the bottom.
And now you're running the whole show, and we're going to get to that as we continue to talk on. Something I want to talk about in a little bit, but since you mentioned Gopher, when I was in college, I was a Gopher for a Formula Atlantic team. Jim Griffith out of Chardon, Ohio, built his own chassis, campaigned them in SCCA Formula Atlantic. A lot of great lessons. And I always tell people, I wish we had Instagram and LinkedIn and stuff like that back then because, Michael Shank's walking around the paddock. That's the time that he was involved in Formula Atlantic, in regional SCCA racing. And, you get introduced to him and, had no way really to stay connected like today's opportunities have. So yeah, for those listening, we talk about networking. If you have the opportunity to be a gopher, and if you don't know what a gopher is, go for this, go for that, get this done, take those opportunities because, in John's case, look where they led to running Havoc Motorsport. Those early days when you started working with Havoc, were there some things you were able to bring over from being a paramedic or maybe even the drag race scene that you started implementing?
Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff carries over. The big ones like discipline, time management, leadership. It all carries over and gives you um, a leg up. You feel more comfortable once you start taking on more responsibility. It's not as overwhelming. Um, when I went from just wrenching to crew chief, that was a big step, and then shop manager. Um, and that was I started taking on all of our travel stuff, coordinating, the cruise flights, making sure we had the trucks down there on time, hotels, VRBOs, all that stuff, and making sure the drivers signed up for everything, the logbooks, everything that you don't think of anymore. someone's got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to step up into that role, and it was daunting, but after you get your hands, in there, get them dirty for, you know, do it a couple times, it becomes second nature.
Right. Well, let's take a step back because listeners probably saying, "Okay, who is Havoc Motorsport? What is this all about?" So I'm gonna kick it off, and I want you to take it from there, John. But Havoc Motorsport, you are located at Autobahn Country Club. You're on the property, open wheel, car prep, arrive and drive programs. Tell the listeners all about Havoc.
Yeah, this is our 51st year in business. My father-in-law started back in 74, and he ran SCCA, he ran HPROD, ITA, American Sport. Basically, if it had four wheels and a motor, he was going to drive it. Um, and then he started bringing on customers, and it started growing and growing. And then they got into the Formula Mazdas, the first gens. And he maintained 15 of them, and they traveled the country with them.
Hmm.
Um, Slow progression, moved over into the Pro Formula Mazdas when they were running the Sport Series for Road Indy. And we had probably 12 of those in the shop for a long time, and we still have a good amount of those here now. Great platform, great learning platform. Now we've made the progression into the Leger F3 car. We currently have 5 of them in our shop. They have a Gen 2 coming out. We're going to have that here shortly. So what we provide is complete arrive and drive. We have 12 members here at Autobahn that we maintain their cars. We do everything from maintaining them to trackside service, coaching, data review. They'll go out. When they're done, we re-prep the cars, get them ready. They give us a call like, hey, I want to come out Thursday. They show up, jump in the car, go. Same thing when we go on the road. Everything we do for the travel is all arrive and drive. The drivers show up, they get in, they go. We're a one-stop shop for everything open wheel.
So I want to go back to something from the days I was around Formula Atlantic. You talk about arrive and drive. I vividly remember. So I was in my early 20s, college student, no money. And I remember this tall, he was probably late 20s, young man, wrecked a chassis. And I remember him being in the tent, flipping open the checkbook and writing the check. How many times does that happen during a season for you guys where somebody has to write you a check?
For the whole chassis, we've only had recently only once, and that was at the June sprints 2 seasons ago. Guy was renting one of our PFMs, Pro Formula Mazdas, and lost it in turn 1 and got T-boned by a Swift. So that car was a complete write-off, and that happened on Sunday, and by Wednesday I had a wire transfer from him. So
Okay.
But I mean, throughout the season, traveling, there's guys take lumps, and that's the one thing with open wheel cars is you make contact with that suspension, and you can just write off that corner. It's all done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a risk with racing, and the guys know it. But there's been some expensive weekends for some of these guys, unfortunately.
I would imagine. So we're going to go down and talk about arrive and drive. I want to talk about formula cars in general and a few other things regarding your program and where you play and work. Arrive and drive. Let's first talk about arrive and drives. So is this a growing part of the sport? Is it something where someone tries it out and then says, all right, I'm ready, I want to purchase it? What sort of arrive and drive customers are you seeing?
I think that's exactly what's going on right now. It's growing. The whole open wheel field is growing. I think the Netflix series has made that way more popular. But yeah, so we have a Leger F3 we rent, and a lot of guys have open wheel experience. They want to see if they're ready, or they want to move to the next level. And so they'll rent the car here at Autobahn for a day, or they'll rent it for an SCCA weekend. And we've had a couple of guys that have rented it and they loved it, and they're like, hey, find me a car. I want my own. And then we'll go out and we find them a car, and Sometimes they'll fly us out to do an inspection, or sometimes they'll just buy it.
Yeah.
But that's what we've seen is a lot of the arrive and drive guys will go and they rent the car and then they basically fall in love with it and move on to owning their own car.
What do you see as the biggest jump? So some people might start out in open wheel, but most of us start off in karts and then we get into production cars with fenders. And then if we're good enough and have enough money, we move into open wheel. What's the biggest obstacle moving from a production car into an open wheel car, or maybe the biggest challenge that you've seen?
I think it all comes down to funding. Um, Open wheel is obviously it is not a cheap hobby, not a cheap sport. Racing isn't obviously, but when you look at the tiers, open wheel is definitely up there near the top. Um, I think once if they come from a wealthy family, that always helps. Or if the drivers network themselves and they're able to land sponsors, the rest of it is pretty much icing on the cake once the funding's there. Um, we have seen an uptick from the karting. These kids are coming in from karting at 13 years old and test driving F4s and F3s, and it's crazy. But what they spend in a karting weekend, some of these teams, it's less than it costs to run an F3 for a weekend. So, um, once they can afford the big time national karting, sometimes moving to an open wheel car isn't that big of a jump financially for some of these families.
Yeah, some of these karting programs are off the rails expensive.
Mhm.
All big rigs, big money. Um,
Oh yeah.
so while we're talking about arrive and drive, I asked you before the show, what was the weirdest or oddest thing that came to you from a renter? And your response was you had somebody as part of the program that showed up and didn't like the vibes the car was given. From
Yeah.
a business perspective, how do you deal with that, and how did you handle that specific situation?
Oh, I when he first told me, I thought he was joking. Because he was kind of a jokester, the guy, and he'd rented from us before, and so when he was saying that he wasn't liking the vibes of the car, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, all right. And he's like, no, can I run one of your other cars? And I was like, you're serious? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, we're gonna have to do some changes to the car, pedals and belts and seats and make sure everything's right for you and for your setup. So it's gonna be extra. And he's like, yeah, no, that's fine. Just tell me how much. I just don't like the way the car's not vibing this weekend. I want to try something new. Um,
Wow.
okay.
Right? Pull out the checkbook. So, how did
Yeah.
his weekend go? How did his weekend go in the car that did have good vibes?
He was 3 seconds slower.
Trust the.
So
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah, same setup, same car. He was just slower. So
Yeah. Gotcha. Let's talk about open wheel and specifically formula classes. You're doing a lot in SCCA. Where else do these cars run?
so we ran Formula Race Promotions last season, FRP.
Yes.
We took the championship in that, and we kind of walked away with it. We clinched the championship with still 3 race weekends left to go in the season. So that's why we decided to run the Super Tour this year with SCCA and see if we can get these F3s to find a way to keep up with those 016 Swifts. Those things are rockets, and we're gonna do what we can. The new F3 that we got coming, they're predicting 2-minute lap times at Road America. So
Wow.
that would keep us up there with them and make it competitive.
What cars did you take to FRP? Because there's multiple classes that run at FRP, right?
Yeah, so we ran in the Atlantic Open class, and we ran the F3 in the Pro Formula Mazdas.
All right.
Um, they have 1600s, they have F2000s, they have F1000s, the 016s. And it sounds like next year they're changing their format to mirror SCCA, where basically all the Atlantics will be lumped together in one field.
All right. And is that everything Atlantic? Anything that's had an FA, sort of build in the past?
Yeah, anything that qualifies under FA, under SCCA guidelines is what FRP is going to run with. So all the O16s, the O14s, the 008s, PFMs, F3s, all of them are all going to be bunched together again.
It's like alphabet soup.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest challenge trying to figure out where to put the car, what class, as you're looking at, maybe going an SCCA weekend or an FRP weekend or even something else?
Um, you know, got to look at it whether it's going to be, are we going to be competitive? Is it going to be worth it? Or is it just going to be an expensive lapping session? Or are we over, over horsepowered for what we were at? Like FRP, that F3 was just, it was a menace out there. Our driver podiumed in every single event, and I think he only took second twice. So, um, with them dropping the O16s down, the new F3 I think will give it fits, but the first gens will still be a little under horsepowered and overweight compared to those guys. So it'll be interesting to see where we fall. It'll mix things up a little more for us.
Okay, so those F3s, we're talking six figures on a new chassis, right?
Oh yeah, a used one you're looking 110, 120.
Wow. So without getting too into your finances at Havoc, you're going to be buying some of these for arrive and drives, right?
Correct.
Uh, so does it give you any pause? Like, man, I'm going to buy two or three of these. I'm going to shell out nearly $500,000. Do the banks look at you and be like, man, you're crazy? Again, without sharing too much personal information, how does an organization sort of make that sort of investment?
That's a big thing we're working with the marketing team about looking for title sponsors for the team for the season and offering that spot for networking. It's not just a name on the car anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's companies, they care about it, but they don't. Um, they want to know what they're going to get out of it. And so it's inviting them out to the tracks, having the VIP hospitality areas fun, letting them network with other teams at the track, opening up doors for them that they might not ever had seen the market availability. Um, so that is a lot of the way we're looking to fund the purchase of new cars is with those title sponsors. Um, and that's how we've done it in the past. So hopefully that continues this season. We can lock in one or two title sponsors for our cars and get those companies some networkability at the racetracks and get them some views online and just keep getting new cars here and getting people in the seats.
Right. One of the things we talked about, you coming from, your background as a paramedic, coming into Havoc, and then growing through the organization and now leading it. What was the biggest? Well, I asked you what the biggest aha moment or eye opening, and you're like, it's no longer 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So, you're open, I think, 6 days a week because the
Yes.
tracks close Mondays up at Autobahn. Huge demands. You're always traveling. You're always working. You're always on as a business leader. Always on. It doesn't matter if something comes, you get contacted late at night, text message, hey, what's the status of my car? Are we ready to go this weekend? Early morning,
Right.
you're already grinding. So let me put this into a question for you, John. How do you balance all that? You've got so many balls in the air, and you can't let the important ones drop. From a business leader perspective, how do you address that?
That's probably been the biggest challenge for me is learning how to balance the home life with the work life. Um, I got 5 boys at home, so
Oh
we're
man,
we're just as busy at home as I am at work. So luckily we have a great group of clients here. Um, I've really started doing my best where 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 5 o'clock hits, my phone goes on silent.
mm,
Um, Send me an email. If there's something, life or death, get a hold of me. But otherwise, it can wait till tomorrow. Um, that doesn't mean I'm still not in complete work mode in the back of my head. You know, you wake up at 2 in the morning staring at the ceiling because you got a whole list of things you know have to get done and the time to do it. And so those don't really ever go away. You can do your best to balance it by just kind of, you get home, you shut the phone off, you walk inside. Now you're dad. You're no longer the business, manager. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm still learning. I haven't 100% figured it out yet because my phone literally rings all day. Um, and people, it's an expensive business. They've invested a lot of money and they have questions. They expect answers, and I understand that. So it's just finding that happy balance to make sure everything gets done on both ends.
Yeah, it's never ending. We have in our karting days, we had Dan. The nickname either was Dan the Cartman, as we call him in our household, but a lot of people call him Hey Dan because it's always Hey Dan. So in your world, we've got Hey John. Either people are
Yep.
yelling across the paddock, the pit, your facility there at Autobahn. Hey John, people are blowing up your phone. So it is tough. And for those that aren't business owners, for those that aren't business leaders, they don't necessarily understand that it's constant. You can't shut the light off and just go off and do something else. So let's talk about the family and the boys. You got 5 boys. You got a basketball team right there if you wanted it. You got a pit crew if you wanted it.
Yeah.
Have they shown any interest in motorsports?
So my oldest, he did for a while, and then he found hockey, and that was the end of that. He's a sophomore in college playing hockey right now. And my youngest, who is 2, is obsessed with cars. And I got 3 in the middle, and one of them wants to work on cars, and the other one wants to own the company. So I got a big mix there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a few of them are interested. So,
Yeah.
It's been the family business, so to speak. It sounds like it may continue on that, but I know being a father myself, as long as they're happy doing what they love, that's the most important thing.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to the Formula Atlantic stuff before we start talking about advice. So I mentioned working with Jim Griffith back in the day. He built his own chassis. Do you see those anymore showing up at events, the Griffith chassis?
I can't remember the last time I did see one, but I know they're out there. You see them on the forums. You see some of them pop up for sale every now and then, or someone looking for parts. So they're still out there racing, but I can't remember the last time I saw one personally.
Yeah, I want to say they were running a Volkswagen engine. Would that be right?
I think so.
Yeah,
that's what they were. So
all right. Yeah, good times for sure. Since we talked a little bit about Mazda, are you doing the in-house engine builds, or do you send those out?
So we do everything in-house except for the engine builds.
All right.
The rotaries, we have an engine builder we use, and then the F3s are still a sealed system, so those have to get shipped out to be rebuilt.
Gotcha. So my race car's an FC RX-7. I have one complete engine sitting around that I know runs, but probably needs to gone through, and then I've got rotors and housings just piled. So I need to, at some point, come up with a spare engine. So maybe I'll talk to you, get some advice on who can help with that.
Sure.
Has there been any interesting trackside things with the rotaries, either issues or people complaining about noise or people saying, I love the Braps, bring me more?
Out here, it's great because we're at the Autobahn. We're in the middle of nowhere. So they can be as loud as they want to be here. And everyone here loves them. Some of the people say it sounds like an M80 going off when they downshift. And
yeah.
So yeah, the rotaries are one of the fan favorites out here at Autobahn. Guys love hearing them rip around the track, and it's such an open area. Everything echoes, so you always know when one's on track.
Oh yeah. Do you ever get the opportunity to take one around the track?
Yeah, we have. Well, we just sold our PFM rental to a customer, but we used to take that out all the time, for testing reasons. And then we had our new F3 out on track the other day doing some rollers for some video, for some new stuff. So we get to get them out here and there on nice days, and if we're not too busy.
Gotcha. Well, let's transition into some of the things I like to call like the advice and the learning and things like that. And I asked you a little bit about the firefighting and bring it over and for some quotes and things like that. And I love this saying, and I gave a version of it yesterday to a group of automotive students, but I like your version a little better. Early is on time is late, late equals go home. So why is that? Why do you love that quote?
It's just something we learned at the fire service. One of my battalion chiefs, that was the first thing he taught us when we walked in the door. Um, and it wasn't as much of a time as money then, but it was more of, hey, get here on time. On time is early. Respect the guys coming off shift. They want to go home and see their families. Shift starts at 7. Don't get here at 6:50. Be here at 6:20. So when that late call comes in, you can jump in and take it for them. And we kind of rolled with that here. Time is money. Be here early. So when we do start, we're ready to go. Shop up over the winter. We work 7 to 5, 4 days a week. So it's not get here at 7, figure out the day. Let's get here at 6:45 and have a plan. So at 7, we hit the ground running. And I've always been just huge on punctuality. Like if you can't show up on time, just don't bother.
Right. Has that, being a business leader, has that been something you had to deal with? And hey, you're not showing up enough. See you later.
Yeah, we've had that a couple times, and unfortunately, it is what it is. It's nothing personal, but when you're running a company and time is money in a race shop, and if you can't get here on time, then it's you got to find something else. But luckily, the crew I have now they're outstanding. I used to be able to get here half hour, 40 minutes early, and have a little bit of time to myself to plan the day. And now these guys are getting here, and I'm like, either I have to get up earlier or we got to figure something else out because I don't have that quiet time in the morning anymore. These guys are already here. So
it is precious to have that time. In our sport, things are always changing. We have to deal with so many, technology changes and updates. Things are getting better. Things are getting lighter. From your position, how do you stay on top of everything, and what resources do you go to learn the latest and greatest in the technology that applies to formula cars?
Yeah, so I mean, PRI was great. PRI is always a great time. Always so many innovative companies and ideas out there to just take in, and it never feels like it's enough time when you're there. It's always so overwhelming, but different forums. There's so many race forums out there with people just, ideas that may seem off the wall, but once you start looking into them, they really have some value and they start to make sense. Our F3s, it's a little tough right now because they're still a spec series sealed motor, sealed, pretty much almost everything. So there's not a lot we can do with those yet. The Pro Mazdas, we basically we throw everything at those things. Remake rear diffusers, change up wings, end plate, anything we can to get a little extra bit out of those cars. Port the motors, everything. It's where the F3s will go eventually. Once they're not a series motor, series car, and we can cut all those seals and really play with the car. Everything now, all this current stuff, it's all tuning. So if you know how to tune a motor, or if you want to learn how to tune a motor, do it, because you can get so much horsepower with the computer now. Put the car in the dyno and plug in, and these kids hit a couple buttons, and all of a sudden the car's got another extra 100 horsepower. So
isn't it amazing? They're looking at the graph, they're looking at the chart, and my eyes are just glazing over. And they're like, they do this, this, and this. Hey, there's an extra, couple foot-pounds. Here's some extra horsepower. I'm like, okay, sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's great to have smart people around us that can that understand this sort of stuff. As you've been hanging out at Havoc, as you've been hanging out in the paddock, what's the best motorsports advice you've overheard?
Stay humble. There's a lot of egos in racing, and whenever you see a driver leave a team or something happen and it's not in a positive way, I feel like 100% of the time there's an ego involved on one side or the other. So I try to remember that. I try to remember, where we started with our grassroots, and for me, it was 21. I went to the June sprints with a 24-foot enclosed trailer and one car. This last June, we were up there for FRP. We had 2 haulers and 9 cars. So,
Wow.
it's been a quick climb, and it's good to, every once in a while hit that reset and remember, like, hey, we were not always able to do this.
Yeah. What's the best advice you give? I'm sure you have folks coming to you all the time. Hey, how do I build a business like this? How do I get an Arrive and Drive program going? How do I get involved in your program? Maybe a younger person's asking you that. What's your favorite go-to advice other than if you're late, go home?
For, someone trying to put together a business and Arrive and Drive, I think the biggest thing you have to do first is you have to find a good crew. My guys now, I don't have to worry about being out on the shop floor, or if I have something conflicting about taking a day off, literally give them, hey, we need this, this, and this done. I don't care how it gets done or when it gets done, but it's got to be done today. And I don't have to check back in. It'll be done. So I think that is probably the foundation of getting an Arrive and Drive or Motorsports is having a crew that you can trust and you don't have to micromanage.
Understood. How do folks learn more about Havoc Motorsport, getting more involved, maybe just following you to see all the cool action? Where are you most driving people to check you out?
Yeah, find us on Instagram. I got my kid running that now because he does way better at it than I ever could. We're on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. And then, our shop's got a website. We try to keep all of them up to date with what we're doing and what we got available. And I think he does a pretty good job. So if there's any questions, people can find my email on the website or send us a message on any of the social medias. We'll get back to you pretty quick.
Yeah, I've been on your website quite a bit. It's absolutely up to date. I love the for sale page, although that could be a little tempting at times, seeing what's up there. And so we'll make sure to put links to all the socials as well as the webpage in the show notes. And folks, if you have an opportunity, connect with John on LinkedIn. Scroll past his previous post because one of his customers got him a custom watch with the Havoc Motorsport logo on it. I thought that was pretty slick. Are you wearing it today?
I actually don't have it on today. I try not to wear it when I know I'm going to be in the shop because I don't want it to scratch it.
Yeah.
He was actually, that customer was great enough, and he was so impressed with the crew. He actually got it for me and the whole crew. He got all of us watches.
That says something. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, you're surrounding yourself with some good people, and that's good advice right there too.
Yeah. Yep. Find the right people. And once you find them, find a way to stay connected.
Mm-hmm. John, is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to?
No, I don't think so.
All right. It's time for the final question. So as your awesome crew there at Havoc Motorsport gets cars ready, get them into the paddock, and get them to grid, have you ever had one of your drivers not be ready for grid?
All too often.
Really? What's the story?
We have a couple drivers that I've literally, when we have the printout of the session times from SCCA or whatever series it is, I go in and I change them and I make them 10 minutes earlier than they actually are. And that worked for a while. And then they kind of caught on when they would get their emails and see that I was changing it. So now I literally bought a countdown clock that goes on the side of the trailer. And that is the countdown to when they have to be in their car. Because some of them, they'll just sit there and they'll start talking and they're in another world. And like, you are going to be late to the grid. Like, we have to go. So that's what we've implemented now. We have a countdown clock for the drivers.
Oh, man. Well, it sounds like you're preventing them from being late to grid, but they can't follow suit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mail you some late to grid stickers. So some for you, but then also you can slap those on the helmet when the guys are late to grid.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely do that.
I love it. Well, John, it was great having you on. I hope to be able to connect up with you at an event, maybe at Autobahn this summer. At the very least, we'll connect at PRI here later this year. Thanks so much for sharing your journey and more about Havoc Motorsport.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
John from Havoc Motorsports shared some great insights into his career in our industry. Some of my big takeaways include how he's using LinkedIn to network with not only people in motorsports, but people want to become in motorsports. We hear the story with him getting connected to a driver who's overseas. Would not have happened without diligent networking and LinkedIn. If you look at Havoc Motorsport, they started off going to June sprints with one car in a 20-foot trailer. This past season, 9 cars, 2 haulers. Some of the team members flew there. Some drove there. That's huge. When I asked him about how he learns and where he goes to get the latest on technology and our sport, PRI. Wow, right? If you haven't been to PRI, get there. So much to learn, so many great people. When he became the general manager of Havoc Motorsport, he quickly realized it's no longer 9 to 5. You're always on. You got to find ways to disconnect. He shares those in the episode. He also shares a great quote. Early is on time is late, and late is go home. True words. Think about it. If you're not ready to show up and work, what are you ready for? Time is money in all of our businesses, especially motorsports. You can't be late to grid. And if you are late to work, you're ultimately going to be late to grid. If you're late to get your projects done, you're going to be late to grid. I loved when I saw a photo of his shop. It had a banner in it, that black banner, white writing. No one cares. Work harder. Think about that. Sure, we care about other people. But at the end of the day, no one cares. Just get it done. Keep working through the problems. Find solutions. Find a way to win. No one cares. Work harder. I loved his response to the question of what advice do you give people that want to put a business together in our sport? Have a good crew. Surrounding yourself with the right people, whether they're advisors or your employees, is so key. Having the right crew in your corner helps you work on the big things, helps make sure the little things are taken care of, and helps execute your vision. Have the right crew. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. I have a favor. Share the podcast with either someone you want to get involved in the sport or someone that needs to get faster and learn more. Oh, and one other thing. Don't be late to grid.